U.S. F-35s wipe out 12 Venezuelan Su-30s in just 90 seconds. Radars blind. Total stealth massacre.
Imagine the Caribbean, not as it appears on a postcard, but as a theater of invisible physics. It is January 8th, 2026. We are hovering in the airspace north of Caracas, Venezuela. The air here is thick, heavy with salt and humidity. To a tourist, this is tropical warmth. To a sensor operator, it is atmospheric soup. This humidity absorbs infrared energy. It scatters light. It bends radar waves in subtle, unpredictable ways known as ducting. Below, the water is a deep, bruised blue, hiding the massive oil reserves that have defined the fate of this nation for a century. Above, the sky is a brilliant, blinding white blue. It looks empty. It looks peaceful. But that is the great deception of modern warfare. The emptiness is a lie. This airspace is currently the most lethal environment on the planet. We are witnessing the aftermath of Day 3. In the doctrine of air superiority, Day 1 is about kicking down the door, destroying the ground radars, the command centers, the eyes of the enemy. That happened 72 hours ago when the S-300 radar net collapsed. Now, we are in the mop-up phase, a clinical term for hunting down the survivors. The Venezuelan Air Force, the Aviación Militar Bolivariana, is not surrendering. They are scrambling a desperate last stand, 12 aircraft. Their crown jewels, the Sukhoi Su-30MK2s. They are launching into this humid soup to protect ExxonMobil platforms that they believe are about to be seized. They are flying north, engines roaring, radars sweeping. They are looking for a fight. But they are flying into a mathematical impossibility. They are flying against the United States Marine Corps' F-35B Lightning II. And this is where the story shifts from politics to physics. This isn't just a battle between two groups of pilots. It is a collision between two different eras of understanding how the world works. It is the clash of the acoustic overwhelm against the electromagnetic silence. It is the story of the silent erase. To understand why this day, January 8th, is happening, you have to peel back the geopolitical skin of the region. Venezuela has been bleeding for decades. The oil that sits beneath these waters was supposed to be their salvation, but it became their curse. By 2026, the infrastructure is rusted. The economy is a ghost of its former self, and the military is operating on the fumes of pride. The Su-30MK2 fleet, purchased from Russia almost 20 years prior for nearly $50 million a unit, represents the last vestige of national power. These jets are the Bolivarian Shield. Think about the psychology of that. When a nation buys a weapon like the Su-30, they aren't just buying a machine. They are buying a symbol. They are buying the idea that they can deny the sky to an empire. But symbols require maintenance. Symbols require spare parts, and due to years of crushing sanctions and the collapse of the Russian supply chain following the Ukraine conflict, these symbols are rotting from the inside out. The engines, the massive Saturn AL-31Fs, are past their overhaul dates. The radars are drifting out of calibration. The pilots are brave, undeniably, but they are flying blindly into a scenario that their training manuals didn't account for. They are trained to rely on a ground control intercept officer, a voice in their ear telling them where to go. But today, the ground controllers are gone. The radio is silent. They are alone in the cockpit, staring at a green radar screen that shows nothing but static, convinced that the enemy is out there, somewhere, hiding in the glare of the sun. Let's stop time for a moment and look at the antagonist in this tragedy, the Su-30MK2, known by NATO as the Flanker G. If you were to see this aircraft on a runway, your knees would shake. It is a masterpiece of kinetic engineering. It is massive, nearly 72 feet long. That's the length of a tennis court. It has a wingspan of 48 feet. It is painted in this striking Arctic camouflage, flat light gull gray with patches of intermediate blue, designed to vanish into the Caribbean haze. The Flanker is famous for one thing: super-maneuverability. It can perform a stunt called Pugachev's Cobra. Imagine a fighter jet flying at hundreds of miles per hour, suddenly rearing its nose up past vertical, 90, 120 degrees, turning its entire body into a giant air brake, hovering there like a cobra ready to strike, before slamming the nose back down. It is terrifying to watch at an air show. It screams aggression. It screams power. But in the cold calculus of 2026, this maneuver is a parlor trick. It is a suicide note. Why? Because to do a Cobra, you have to kill your airspeed. You become a stationary target in the sky. And against the weapons we are talking about today, being stationary is synonymous with being dead. The Su-30 is a blind giant. Its eyes are the N001 VEP Panda radar. This is technology that traces its lineage back to the Soviet Union. It uses a twist Cassegrain antenna. Imagine a mechanical dish physically moving back and forth inside the nose cone, scanning the sky like a flashlight beam in a dark room. It's powerful, yes. It can shout loud electronic pulses, but it suffers from the tyranny of the radar equation. Physics dictates that for a radar to see a target, the signal has to travel out, hit the target, bounce off, and travel all the way back. The energy drops off not by the square of the distance, but by the fourth power. That means to see something twice as far away, you need 16 times the power. The Su-30 is shouting into the void, looking for a reflection that will never come. Now, pivot your attention to the hunter, the F-35B Lightning II. If the Su-30 is a shark, the F-35B is a computer with wings. It is ugly in a way that only purely functional things are ugly. It is thick, angular, swollen. It doesn't have the grace of the flanker, but it possesses something the flanker does not, to manipulate the electromagnetic spectrum. We are talking specifically about the B variant here, the one flown by the US Marines. This is the short takeoff and vertical landing version. This engineering miracle comes with a heavy price. To land vertically, the F-35B carries a massive shaft-driven lift fan right behind the cockpit. It's a dead weight during combat, a parasite that eats up fuel space and weapon space. But it allows the Marines to operate from amphibious assault ships, essentially small aircraft carriers, putting them right on Venezuela's doorstep. The sound of this machine is unique. In aeroacoustic forensics, the F-35B doesn't just roar, it crackles. This unique spectral character is caused by stochastic shockwaves forming in the supersonic shear layers of the F-135 PW600 engine. When the afterburner ignites, it generates a staggering 121 decibels, perceptually more than twice as loud as an F-15. It is a pressure spike that doesn't just hit the eardrum, it vibrates the human skeletal structure, a visceral manifestation of 43,000 pounds of raw thrust. It creates a visceral bone-shaking fear known as the beast on the ground. But up here in the silence of the stratosphere, the F-35B is a ghost. The pilots call it Day 3 configuration or beast mode. Because the enemy radar net is down, the F-35s have compromised their perfect stealth. They are carrying weapons on the outside of the wings. This is a crucial detail. Usually, to be invisible to radar, you hide everything inside. But today, the Marines want firepower. They have bolted pylons to the wings. They have strapped on AIM-9X sidewinders and extra AM-1 20D AMRAAMs. You might think, doesn't that ruin the stealth? Yes and no. This is where the nuance of physics comes in. In a Day 1 stealth configuration, the F-35B's frontal radar cross-section, RCS, is roughly 0.005 square meters, the size of a golf ball. In today's beast mode, with external pylons acting as corner reflectors, that signature swells to approximately 0.1 to 0.5 square meters, the size of a beach ball. Yet, compared to the Su-30MK2's massive 15 square meter barn door signature, the F-35B remains an electromagnetic ghost. The radar math is brutal. The F-35B sees the flanker at 160 kilometers, while the flanker's N001 VEP radar is physically incapable of seeing the beast until it's within 60 kilometers. That 100-kilometer gap is the kill zone. The difference is logarithmic. Even in this dirty configuration, the F-35B is virtually invisible to the antiquated mechanical radar of the Su-30 until it is far, far too late. The defining technology of the F-35B isn't the stealth, though, it's the sensor fusion. It's the AN/AAQ 37 Distributed Aperture System, or DAS. Imagine 6 high-resolution infrared cameras embedded around the skin of the aircraft. They are stitched together by a supercomputer to create a 360-degree sphere of video. The pilot wears a helmet that costs nearly $500 million. When he looks down, he doesn't see the floor of the cockpit. He sees the ocean. He sees the clouds. he sees through the plane. It is the God's eye. While the Su-30 pilot is wrestling with a joystick and checking analog gauges, the F-35 pilot is floating in a sphere of data. Viper 1 is operating under strict AMCON, emission control. His AN/APG-81 AESA radar isn't shouting. It's using low probability of intercept LPI sniffs that are too fast and frequency agile for the Su-30's antiquated RWR to categorize. Fused with the AN/AAQ-37DAS, which tracks the thermal blooming of the Flankers AL-31F engines across a 360-degree spherical shell, the F-35 pilot possesses total information dominance without emitting a single detectable radio wave. He is stalking them like a leopard in tall grass. The Venezuelan pilots are fighting a traditional war of kinematics: speed, altitude, turning radius. The American pilots are fighting a war of information. Let's dig deep into the physics of this kill, the technical essay of the engagement. The concept of the kill chain here is dictated by the inverse relationship between frequency and wavelength, and the brutal reality of kinetic energy. The interaction begins with the radar equation. As mentioned, the Venezuelan Su-30 is emitting high-energy radio waves. These waves travel out at the speed of light. When they hit an object, they scatter. If the object is a flat plate, like the tail of a 747, the waves bounce back strong. But the F-35 is a collection of angles. It is designed so that when a radar wave hits it, the wave is deflected up, down, or sideways, anywhere but back to the sender. Furthermore, the skin of the F-35 is coated in radar-absorbent material, RAM. This material works on a molecular level to convert the electromagnetic energy of the radar wave into heat. It literally swallows the signal. So, the Su-30 radar scans across the F-35. The signal hits the RAM, gets absorbed. The signal hits the angled edges, gets deflected. The amount of energy that returns to the Su-30 is microscopic. The Su-30's computer filters it out as noise, background static, ocean waves, atmospheric clutter. The F-35 is there physically, but electronically, it does not exist. Meanwhile, the F-35's passive sensors are picking up the heat from the Su-30's engines. A jet engine is essentially a continuous explosion. It pumps out massive amounts of infrared radiation. The Caribbean humidity dampens this, but not enough. The F-35's computer sees 12 bright white dots against the cold background of the upper atmosphere. It identifies them. Su-30MK2. It calculates their speed, Mach 0.9. It calculates their altitude, 30,000 feet. The F-35 pilot selects a weapon, the AIM-120. This missile is a robot. It is a suicide drone with a rocket motor. When the pilot presses the trigger, the F-35 doesn't even need to point at the target. The missile drops, the motor ignites, a dual-pulse solid rocket motor, the HAL. First pulse is the boost. It accelerates the missile to Mach 4. That is 4 times the speed of sound, nearly 3,000 miles per hour. Here is the terrifying part for the Su-30 pilot. The missile is flying in silent mode. The F-35 updates the missile via a data link, telling it where the target is. The missile's own radar is off. The Su-30 has a radar warning receiver, RWR, a device designed to beep when it detects a radar lock. But there is no lock. The RWR is silent. The radio is silent. The sky is blue. The pilot feels safe. The missile covers the distance, 60, 80 kilometers, in seconds. It coasts to save energy. Then, about 10 kilometers from the target, the missile goes pitbull. It turns on its own active radar seeker. Suddenly, the cockpit of the Su-30 lights up. The RWR screams. A red light flashes missile launch. But do the math. The missile is traveling at Mach 4. The Su-30 is traveling at Mach 0.9. The closing speed is Mach 5. That is 1 mile every second, L. By the time the pilot hears the warning, the missile is 6 seconds away. 5 seconds. He grabs the stick. He tries to pull a brake turn. He tries to dispense chaff. But the physics are unforgiving. The missile is pulling 30 Gs. The pilot can only pull 9 Gs before passing out. And then, the terminal ballistics. The executioner is the AIM-120D carrying the WDU-33B warhead. It doesn't rely on a direct impact. As the missile enters the no-escape zone at Mach 4, Its active radar proximity fuse triggers an annular blast pattern. It unleashes a tungsten cloud, thousands of preformed tungsten cubes, 1.7 times denser than lead, impacting the Su-30 at a closing velocity of nearly Mach 5. The kinetic energy is catastrophic. It doesn't just puncture the skin, it shreds. It imparts energy so high that the structural integrity of the aircraft liquefies. Hydraulic lines are severed, fuel tanks rupture, the engines ingest their own debris. In a millisecond, the flanker, the $50 million symbol of resistance, is converted into a cloud of falling debris. When that tungsten cloud hits the aluminum and titanium skin of the Su-30, it doesn't just poke holes, it shreds. It imparts kinetic energy so high that the structural integrity of the aircraft liquefies. Hydraulic lines are severed, fuel tanks rupture, the engines ingest their own debris. In a millisecond, the flanker, the pride of the nation, the $50 million symbol of resistance, is converted into a cloud of falling debris. And the F-35 pilot? He watches the heat signature disappear from his visor. He hasn't broken a sweat. He hasn't pulled a high G turn. He has simply erased the target from the database. This is the nature of the silent erase. It is efficient, it is expensive, and it is terrifyingly quiet. Let's reset the clock. It is 8:14 a.m. We are back in the cockpit of the lead Su-30MK2. The pilot, let's call him Major Gatto, is a veteran. He has flown over 1,000 hours. He knows the hum of the Saturn engines better than the sound of his own wife's voice. He is scanning the horizon, looking for the telltale smoke trail of an enemy fighter or the glint of sun off a canopy. He is doing what pilots have done since the Red Baron. He is hunting with his eyes. But modern air combat has nothing to do with eyes. It has nothing to do with courage. It is a game of first look, first shot, first kill. And Major Gatto has already lost. He just doesn't know it yet. 80 miles to the north, 4 F-35Bs are operating in a wide wall formation. They are not talking on the radio. If you tuned a scanner to the UHF military frequencies, you would hear nothing but static. Radio waves are a beacon. They tell the enemy where you are. While the Venezuelan pilots are tethered to a non-existent ground control network, the F-35s are linked via MADL, the Multifunction Advanced Data Link. Unlike traditional omnidirectional radios, MADL uses a daisy chain of narrow, low probability of intercept beams. They are sharing a single, fused tactical picture in total radio silence. To the Su-30s, the sky is empty. To the F-35s, the battle is already won. They are simply managing a distributed sensor organism. The flight lead, Viper 1, looks at his display. The God's eye has merged the data. He sees the 12 Su-30s in their classic Soviet formation, tight, aggressive, intimidating. To the F-35's computer, they look like a buffet. The system has already prioritized them. It has assigned a firing solution to each bandit. It calculates the probability of kill, PK. The numbers are hovering at 95%. Viper 1 authorizes the engagement. There is no dramatic Fox 3 shouted over the radio. There is just a thumb press on the side stick controller. The weapon bay doors on the F-35s snap open. But remember, we are in beast mode. The wings are heavy with ordnance. In a ripple fire sequence, 8 AIM-120D missiles drop from the rails. Let's ride along with one of these missiles. This is a machine that costs over $1 million. It is a disposable Ferrari. As it drops free of the aircraft, the dual-pulse rocket motor ignites. This is solid fuel chemistry at its most violent. The propellant is likely a mix of HTPB, hydroxyl-terminated polybutadiene, and ammonium perchlorate. When it lights, it burns with a specific impulse that accelerates the 335-pound weapon to Mach 4 in seconds. The missile climbs. It doesn't fly straight at the Su-30s. That would be inefficient. It climbs into the thin air of the upper stratosphere, lofting like a quarterback throwing a Hail Mary pass. By flying high, where the air is thin, it reduces drag, extending its range. It is converting chemical energy into potential energy. Down below, Major Gatto is still scanning the empty blue. His RWR, the radar warning receiver, is silent. This is the silent part of the erase. The missiles are being guided by the F-35s via data link. The F-35s are tracking the Su-30s using their passive sensors and quick, unpredictable radar sniffs that are too short for the older Venezuelan warning systems to register as a lock. The missiles are flying blind, trusting the math sent to them by the mothership. The distance closes, 80 miles, 50 miles, 30 miles. The missiles begin their terminal dive. They are trading altitude for speed. They are falling meteors. And now, the timeline compresses. The kill chain enters its final link, 10 miles out. The AIM-120D internal computers decide it is time. The command is Pitbull. The missile activates its own active radar seeker in the nose. Inside the Su-30, the silence is shattered. The Beryoza warning system, or its modern digital equivalent, goes from asleep to hysterical. The dashboard lights up with the symbol for a missile launch. The audio tone changes from a chirping warning to a continuous, high-pitched scream. Imagine the cognitive load on Major Gatto. 1 second he is flying a patrol. The next second, an automated voice is screaming, "Missile! Missile!" in his headset. He looks at his radar screen. It's still empty. He looks out the canopy. He sees nothing but blue. He has no idea where the threat is coming from. Is it from the ground? From the sea? From the sky? He instinctively pulls the stick back and left, hauling the massive flanker into a high G brake turn. He deploys chaff, clouds of aluminum strips designed to confuse radar. He jams the throttles to emergency power. The Saturn engines roar, dumping raw fuel into the afterburners. But physics is a cruel judge. The Su-30 is a heavy bird. Even with its massive engines, it takes time to build momentum. It is trying to outturn a missile that weighs a fraction of its mass and is traveling at 4 times the speed of sound. The missile adjusts. Its fins deflect. It is pulling 30 Gs. It anticipates the turn. It leads the target. The impact is not like the movies. There is no slow-motion fireball. It is too fast for the human eye to process. The proximity fuse detects the fuselage of the Su-30. The warhead detonates. The tungsten cloud we discussed earlier, it expands in a perfect annulus. It slices through the vertical stabilizers of the Su-30. It shreds the cockpit canopy. It perforates the fuel tanks in the wings. At Mach 0.9, aerodynamic forces are immense. If you compromise the structural integrity of a jet fighter, the air itself tears it apart. The left wing snaps off. The fuselage buckles. Major Gatto doesn't have time to eject. The aircraft disintegrates. It is no longer a machine. It is a debris field of burning kerosene and titanium raining down into the Caribbean Sea. And then, it happens again, and again, and again. In the span of 90 seconds, the Bolivarian Shield ceases to exist. 12 aircraft, 24 pilots, gone. The F-35s turn for home. They haven't even entered visual range. They haven't used their afterburners. They still have half their fuel. The pilots are calm. Their heart rates barely spiked. They are essentially IT professionals who just executed a very aggressive delete command. Now, we have to zoom out. We have to look at the strategic reality check of what just happened. This scenario, the silent erase, isn't just fan fiction. It is grounded in the hard data of modern exercises. We have to talk about Red Flag. Red Flag is the premier aerial combat training exercise held in Nevada. It is as close to real war as you can get without dying. In 2017, at Red Flag 17-1, the F-35A made its debut against aggressor squadrons flying F-16 that were simulating advanced Russian tactics. The result was a bloodbath. The F-35s achieved a kill ratio of 20-1. For every one F-35 that was hypothetically shot down, 20 aggressors were destroyed. The aggressor pilots, some of the best in the world, reported that they never saw the F-35s. They would just be flying along, and then their systems would tell them they were dead. They called it fighting an invisible sniper. This validates the astronomical cost of the F-35 program. People love to complain about the price tag. A single F-35B costs around $110 million. The entire program will cost the U.S. taxpayer over $1 trillion over its lifetime. It is the most expensive weapon system in human history. But look at the math of the exchange in Venezuela. The Su-30MK2 costs about $45 million. But the cost of the capability is incalculable. If those Su-30s had survived to launch their anti-ship missiles, they could have sunk an oil platform worth billions. They could have destroyed a U.S. Navy destroyer. By erasing the threat before it could even deploy, the F-35B justifies its existence. It proves that in the 21st century, stealth and sensor fusion are not luxuries. They are the price of entry. If you don't have them, you are just a target. But there is a darker layer to this forensic analysis. we must consider the psychological domain. What happens to a military when its elite force is wiped out in minutes without firing a shot? It breaks the will to fight. The Venezuelan military doctrine relies on the idea that they can make an invasion too costly for the Americans. They rely on the porcupine strategy, make yourself painful to swallow. The silent erase dismantles that strategy. It shows that the porcupine has no quills. It sends a message to the leadership in Caracas and to their allies in Moscow and Beijing. Your hardware is obsolete. Your tactics are from the last century. You cannot hide. The paradox of the prompt was why the most powerful radar in Latin America saw nothing until it exploded. The answer is simple, and it is chilling. The radar saw nothing because it was looking for a reflection in a spectrum that the enemy has mastered. It was looking for a shape that the enemy has erased. The N001 VEP radar is a flashlight. The F-35 is a shadow. And in the world of aerial warfare, the shadow always wins. So, as the debris settles on the surface of the Caribbean, creating slick rainbows of oil on the water, we are left with a new reality. The era of the dogfight is dead. The romantic notion of the knights of the air spiraling around each other in a visual dance of death is gone. It has been replaced by the cold, silent logic of the algorithm. The pilot is no longer a warrior in the traditional sense. He is a systems administrator. He is a node in a network. His job is to manage the flow of information and to authorize the release of kinetic energy. The silent erase is not a battle. It is an execution. It is the triumph of silicon over steel. And on January 8th, 2026, over the warm waters of the Caribbean, it proved that in the modern world, if you can be seen, you can be killed. And if you are flying against the F-35, you are seen long before you ever leave the ground. This is the forensic reality of the Caribbean theater. The water is calm now. The sky is empty again. But the balance of power has shifted forever. This has been a reconstruction of the event. The physics are unclassified. The outcome was inevitable.